All right, it's Hebrews 11:35. The question is, how are we to obtain a better resurrection? How can a saint or one obtain a better resurrection? And we had that on the floor for a couple of weeks now, so we should have some good dissertations on this. Does anybody want to kind of break the ice? Come on, Brother Ashton, help us out.
Well, the answer is Hebrews 12:2.
All right,
Jesus
good.
is the better resurrection.
I like that. Now, can we get that other mic, Brother Chris, to call this? Because I want to. Can you read that, Brother Hexel? You said it's Hebrews 12:2. Can you want to stand and read that real loud? Can you?
Right.
Can we get that other mic?
Looking into Jesus.
Go ahead.
Looking into Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God.
All right.
He was the better resurrection.
All right. So, in order to achieve a better resurrection, we have to, you said, according to that scripture,
Yes, they looked to Jesus, he's the author and finisher of our faith.
Look unto Jesus.
Finisher of all their faith they had before.
I got you. All right. Thank you. Someone else.
Go over my research. First of all, the key word is better, which means superior. And when I think of better, I think of the Old Testament, which God gave unto Moses. But under grace, which Jesus Christ brought into being, we have a New Testament, which is superior. All right? Abraham and the prophets and the Old Testament believers realized the hope and promises that they looked toward in faith. And they realized that they were heavenly and not merely physical. All right? And Hebrews chapter 4, the ones that we're discussing, let me see, Hebrews 10th chapter. I don't want to take too much time, but
Take your time.
just want to share some things with Hebrews 10th chapter, beginning at verse 32 to 36. Hebrews 10, that chapter speaks of endurance, perseverance, and patience.
Yes.
Okay, Hebrews 10:32. I can find it here. But call to remembrance former days, in which after you were illuminated, ye endured a great fight of afflictions, partly while you were made a gazing stock, both by reproaches and afflictions, and partly while you became companions of them that were so used. For ye had compassion of me in my bonds. This is Paul writing. And took joyfully the spoiling of your goods, knowing in yourselves that ye have in heaven a better and an enduring substance. Cast not away therefore your confidence, which has great recompense of reward.
Yeah.
All right, and it's 36th verse. For ye have need of patience, that after you have done the will of God, ye might receive the promise. We're still looking at the keyword better. The text, Hebrews 11th chapter, and it starts with what faith is, the definition of faith, and actually what faith does.
Come on.
It brings us down to the very fourth verse. By faith, Abel offered unto God a better, a more excellent sacrifice. Fifth verse, by faith, all the way through. 7, by faith, it goes right through that chapter. And then finally, on the 28th verse, it says, 27, by faith, he forsook Egypt. We're talking about Moses, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who was invisible. Again, we're looking forward to spiritual principles. We're not looking at the physical. Okay? And it says, through faith, he kept the Passover. Talking about what Moses did. And then by faith, it goes on in the 29th verse, by faith, then by faith. And then, as co-pastors read, the 32nd verse, that brings us down to 35, yes. All right, and also, we know that the women received their dead, all right? When they received their dead back, that was the physical resurrection. That wasn't the best resurrection, because their dead died again. Lazarus died again.
Yes.
All right? Also, we know that, and I've written some scriptures here, about the Shunammite woman, whose son died. Also, the widow of Zarephath, her son was raised. And I have the scriptures, I won't go into them. And I mentioned Lazarus. These were physical resurrection, but the spiritual resurrection leads to everlasting life. So they died again. So that was not the best resurrection. But not all of them, according to Hebrews 11, not all of them won victories, at least at that time. They had to have patience and they had to endure. All right? And then it goes on to name those that were tortured. Zechariah was stoned, and I have the verses for that, the chapter. Isaiah, according to Hebrew tradition, was stoned asunder. Uriah was slain by the sword. Elijah wandered about, and he's spoken of in this scripture, in sheepskins and goatskins. So they suffered for the cause of Christ.
Yeah.
And the martyrs that were torn asunder and of such gave their lives willingly. And it also spoke about Moses. His mother did not fear, or Moses did not fear the wrath of the king, because he was the Pharaoh's son.
Yeah.
And by turning his back, he stood in the wrath of the king might have been against him, but nevertheless, he chose to suffer with the people of God. So, bringing it to a close, 1 Peter says, 2:20, it refers to being condemned unfairly or unjustly, suffering for God's will, that you need to be patient. Also, 1 Peter 3:14-18 says that when you suffer for the right, that is, for doing the right thing, Peter said you're blessed.
Yes.
And then he goes on to say in 1 Peter 4:1 that Christ suffered, and we should prepare ourselves to suffer also. Finally, the richer resurrection, or the abundant, finally, the richer resurrection, which is an abundant entrance into the kingdom, is our eternal reward. That's 2 Peter 1:11. So what I am postulating is that in order to obtain a better resurrection, we need to do what these patriarchs did in that day. By their faith, they worked miracles, but by working miracles, they trusted in God, and God actually did the miracle. But when they went through something,
Yes.
that was something entirely different. You know, because I can trust God
Yes.
to put my rod there, and God will what? They had faith to believe that God would do those things.
Gotcha.
But when they themselves were persecuted,
Come on.
and they had to suffer, their own faith caused them to go through it.
Yes.
And by so doing, by choosing to go through rather than asking the martyr, and I'm thinking about the Protestant Reformation. If you never studied that, study about what they went through that we might get this Bible.
Yes.
They were burned.
Yes.
And they chose not to recant, but they chose to go to their death
Come on.
because of their faith in the Lord, because they understood that there was a better resurrection. There was a spiritual resurrection.
Yeah.
And I feel that if we did what they did, we'll get what they got.
Come on. All right. Very, very, very good. Very conclusive, very... So again, I think the key, and Mother Alva hit it so well about the key is better. Better. We're in a better covenant. It's a better situation that we have than Israel did. Israel had promises generic to their covenant. We have promises that are with our covenant. And our covenant is better. What are some of the promises that were given to Israel with their covenant? Give me some promises. You got the mic on? So you gotta give me some promises from the Old Testament in the Old Covenant that he made with Israel.
A land flowing with milk and honey.
A land flowing with milk and honey. That's called the promised land. Did he not promise them the land? All right. So that's a land flowing with milk and honey. What else did he promise Israel?